Dirt, episode 5. We're back from Lebanon, Missouri, the pool over there. We went over there. I think Kim did go with us, and Bernie and I went over there. We had a good time. We've seen a lot of horsepower. I met some subscribers for the first time in person. So, hey, shout out to you guys, you know. And I enjoyed meeting you. And I met another YouTuber over there, and on YouTube Hill, there's a dirt pile up in the track, and we all called it YouTube Hill. But David from Nebraska, big shout out to you, man. Good guy. Recommend his channel. It's called Remy's Recording. He's kind of like I am. He's down in this neighborhood, and he's up in the Nebraska neighborhood, you know, trying to start off on YouTube. And, you know, we talked about YouTube a lot, and how to get subscribers and the views and stuff like that. And in the tractor pulling world with this kind of channel, you know, it's hard to get the subscribers that you do when you go out and feed your chickens or farm ranching or whatever. So hang in there, David. We're going to work together on this deal, and we're going to get there to get them subscribers. So, you know, that YouTubing's a tough world. Our guest today is Ron Long from Coffeyville, Kansas, and Kim Benning from Coffeyville, and they pretty well went from the racing world to the tractor pulling. So we're going to get started, and they're going to tell us about how they got started in the motorsports world and up to today. So, and then we're going to end with several questions today. So Ron, you want to go first?
Well, back when I was a kid, I did a little bit of street racing. My dad was not a racing fan. He wouldn't let us do any organized racing. And then I went to the service and got married and just kind of got away from it all. And then after the kids were all gone, I told my wife it's time to get another hot rod. Well, my next hot rod was a lawnmower. I started racing lawnmowers, and I did that for a few years. When I first started, I was just going to get this little stock lawnmower, and I had a little trailer I pulled regular lawnmower on, and I was just going to travel around a little bit and have a little bit of fun, and didn't figure I'd advance any further than that. I just want to get out there and have some fun. Well, after racing that stock lawnmower for a while, I had an opportunity to buy a CP. It had a post-twin engine on it that had been modified up to about 40 horse. And when I got on it and got to going around it, oh man, that was sweet. Man, I always wanted a roundy around track on a car, but that was always out of the question. I couldn't afford it. But getting out there on those lawnmowers is almost as much fun, but you got no protection. And anyway, I raced for a couple, 3 years there, and I had an accident, hurt myself pretty bad. And my wife never supported it. She was dead set against it. I bought my first racing lawnmower and went home and told her I did it. I knew what she was going to say. So
I did that with a tractor.
I didn't ask her. I went home and I said, honey, you know, we've been married 40 years, and I've never really done anything without asking you first. But so I bought it. But she never went to a race. She never went to any of our club dinners or anything. She just would not support it at all. And so anyway, after I had that bad wreck, I bought a faster one. I stepped up into the factory experimental class, and we hit speeds up 40, 50 mile an hour on track on those. And my asthma finally got so bad that I couldn't breathe well enough to make the laps, so I had to quit. And my wife lived long enough to see me quit, but a couple years ago she passed away, and I started looking around for other things to do, and Kim brought me over here to Columbus first part of last season to watch the play day. And well, that kind of got me hooked. So I went back home and I started looking for a pulling tractor. And I was just going to start out with a stock tractor and work up, like I did with the lawnmowers. Then I got thinking, after driving those fast lawnmowers, a slow tractor wouldn't go get it for me.
no joke. Yeah.
So I decided to jump in with both feet and bought a hot rod. And I just loved it last summer. I just had a ball. And so that's where
I'll
we're
try
at.
to pull a clip off and put this on the podcast of him pulling that black tractor. What do you call that black tractor?
Well, the name on it says Blackout,
Blackout.
because Roger painted it all black.
Mhm.
It's got black flames and stuff on it. So I've stayed with it, Blackout.
Didn't you win a race one time, a pretty good sized race in the Lawnmower World?
Oh, I won several races, yeah, but I did go to, I traveled all over. I traveled a bunch.
Went to Florida or somewhere, didn't
Now I went to North Carolina.
Okay, North Carolina.
North Carolina to the national finals one year. Kim's cousin and I, we took off and went over there. And coming over here, I've raced in 11 different states.
Wow. And that was one of the questions we had today, so 11 different states.
11 different states.
So that's big time. That's pretty big time there, I'd say.
It was all out of our pocket. We never raced for a dime.
Didn't have no sponsors.
No sponsors. No, everything come out of our pockets.
Just like tractor pulling, just race for
Oh,
the
yeah.
glorious, and this is what I got.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that, because I got several questions from our viewers to ask you about the racing. So, Kim, your turn. How'd you get started? When did you start and up to this day?
Oh, I got started because of my dad. I built my first motor when I was 10 because he was a drag racer, and just evolved from there, from street racing to, then I got into round-around racing in the 90s, and was just like Ron, just want to start at the bottom. I bought a cheap one thinking I could start at the bottom, and all of a sudden I was pretty good at it. So I won 5 track champions just bam, bam, just real quick. And that was at several different tracks. I raced in Missouri and Arkansas and Oklahoma and Kansas, and I went all over these areas. And I was racing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And for 2 years, I was the person to beat. And I went to 48 races one year and won all of them but 8. And just got broke for the 8 that I got beat. And just, I don't know, just playing, just something to do, I guess. But I like to build motors and drag racing motors, and I like to listen to motors scream and beg for mercy myself. And that's why I bought the motorcycle puller. And I got into pulling by accident, because I went to Minnesota with my cousin to buy a tractor. And we got up there, the guy had a cheap motorcycle puller, that first blue one I had.
Oh, yeah.
And we looked like the Clampets coming home. We had stuff stacked on that truck everywhere.
Looks like the Clampets. I like that.
Coming back from Minnesota. and that little puller pulled real good. I pulled it for a couple of years. Didn't look like much, but pulled good. And I sold that to Brian Gwynn, got him trapped into the pulling. And then I just built my little deer slayer, my orange one. And everybody said, what do you play with those? I like to listen to motors whine for all they can whine. And that's why I built the motorcycle puller. And then I sold it and kind of regretted that. So now I got another 4-cylinder in the process of putting together.
That was one of my questions, so don't talk too much about selling that, because some people's mad at you for something. So,
Yeah, other than that, yeah, just something to do.
raced a lot at Caney, didn't you?
Yeah, I raced a lot of Caney and a lot at South Coffville and Bud Turkey's track and Tulsa and Fayetteville, Arkansas and Springfield and Nevada, Wichita, Fayetteville, not Fort Scott. No, Yates Center, excuse me.
Humboldt.
Oh, wait, that's Humboldt too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Humboldt too. Yeah, yeah, I went to quite a few places. I had a little force, and I turned that thing 9,000 RPMs. Let her scream. I built it all myself. Never had a sponsor one hardly. Other than that, yeah, just something to do.
Gets in your blood, go fast.
Go fast.
All right, let's get into a couple of questions here. Our old buddy, I think we'll probably talk about some of it. Our old buddy Rick Marty, who was on the podcast last time,
Yep.
he sent a question in for Kim. He said, tell us about, this must be a side joke or maybe something you told him. It says, tell us about the paint on the deer slayer.
Paint on the deer slayer. It was Toyota Land Cruiser Sunburst Orange, what the color was. And my buddy Dwayne Conley Cherryville, Kansas. He painted it for me. He used to paint car show cars. And when they painted it, I thought it looked beautiful myself. He thought it looked like it needed redone. He said, oh, it's got this, it's got that. And everybody that ever saw it thought it was just absolutely beautiful. And it's just, I don't know, just painted it in the garage. Just but that's what it was.
What color was it?
It was Toyota Land Cruiser Sunburst Orange is what color it was. And I didn't want to go back with Alice Chalmers Orange because I grew up farming on Alice Chalmers and I didn't particularly care for the color of it, but I liked the tractor, so that's why I went back to the Alice. It was a 47B hood and grill, and I made the hood and had a Hartley sheet metal build the hood for me. But the gas tank and the grill was all 47B Alice on it.
Hey, I got a question that makes me think about something. You remember the time the switch went out or something at a pull and you had to change that switch?
Oh,
I think
yeah.
It was in Miller. I was going to ask you that night and I forgot. How in the world do you get in there and change them switches?
Oh, the gas tank,
It's got.
about that much of the gas tank's cut off.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a full gas tank. The gas tank's where the computer and all the wiring is.
I thought it was. I didn't know how you got it.
The gas cap's on it, but you go up just a hole. It's just there's nothing in the wires. The gas tank stuff's actually a radiator. Yeah, because you know, the tank about that gap where the radiator goes to the gas tank, and just you got to take the hood off, and then the gas tank in the back just lays down and you reach down in there.
Because I was looking at that and I thought, man, how in the world do you get that switch out of there?
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy.
Huh.
It's just, you know, big old gaping hole in there because the end of it's cut off. Oh, and that was another one of those things. Alice Chalmers gas tanks are hard to find. It's not full of rust. And I didn't even look at it. I just cut the end off of it. When I cut it off, it looked brand new on the inside. And I just thought, why? I just ruined a perfectly good tank. And somebody's going to scream and yell at me about this. But there wasn't a spot of rust in that tank nowhere. That's what amazed me when after I cut it in half. Just too late then.
I think you've already kind of answered this one, but this came in with no name. It says, what states did you race in? Also, how many racing mowers have you owned? Oh, well, that was from Rick Martin. He wanted to know how many states you raced in. And how many racing mowers have you owned in your life?
3.
3. So, and you've pretty well been everywhere. 11 states.
Yeah.
Ricky's been to 11 states.
I was, of course, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Missouri,
North Carolina.
North Carolina, Texas, Arkansas. We went to one place down in Arkansas. I mean, you must have had to drive 50 miles to go 10. It was back there in the hills down at Yoakum Creek. And we got down, that was the first track I ever raced on. When that was the first time we went out, that was the first one I ever went to. The first time I'd ever got on a track was down there in Yoakum, Arkansas. And broke a belt.
Was there any rocks on it?
Pardon?
Was it pavement or dirt? It was
Yeah,
dirt.
dirt.
Was
Yeah,
there
we
any rocks?
raced on dirt.
Yeah, we
Was there
raced
any rocks
dirt.
in Arkansas?
But we didn't see any. The track, they had the track really well fixed down there. Most of the tracks we raced on were really nice tracks. Yeah,
So while we're on this subject, I don't know if we want to talk about it or not. Tell us about your wreck. What happened? Where was it?
Well, first, both the two bad wrecks I had were in Claremore, Oklahoma. The first one, I come out of turn, and both of them I was coming out of turn 2. I got bumped coming out of turn 2 and it went sideways and rolled with me. And I broke my back that time. And I was off work for 2-3 months. And I went back to work, and that's when I bought the faster mower. And then the last race I was in was on my 74th birthday. No, that's not right. 71st birthday. 71st birthday. I was racing down in Claremore, and this time I didn't get bumped. I just come out of turn 2 too strong, and I got out into the marbles along the side of the track, and I let the back end slide over into the hay bales. And when the back end hit the hay bales, the front end come around, and when the front end hit, he just flipped me over and landed on top of me. And that time I broke 7 ribs, and I crawled a bone in my back again.
Wow.
And I was off work for another 2 months.
How fast was you running roughly? About 45?
about 40 mile an hour
To an instant stop.
to an instant stop.
You know,
That ground's hard.
I was gonna talk about this later on, but let's go ahead and talk about it now. I was telling Kim last weekend, we were talking about this, and I don't know, it's been, oh man, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago maybe? No, it's been longer than that, because I've been on my own about 7 years, but anyway, I announced some lawnmower races. I announced the one at Columbus. I think we had 2 there, and then I announced the fair in Oswego, and then I went to Coffeyville one year. And I was talking to him about who I worked for, and I think it was his cousin.
Probably
who hired
Larry.
him to do it, you know.
Yep.
But
That's what got me started.
man, I'm telling you what, when I started doing this, you know, I mean, the first one I announced was, you know, I felt comfortable in my hometown. It was at Saddle Club Arena, you know. And it was just fun, you know, it was just fun. And then somebody said, well, you need to come to Oswego, you know. So I went to Oswego at the fair. Oh my God, there was a huge crowd, you know. Of course, I kept them entertained, you know, but man, them things would get screaming around there, you know. And I didn't know if he was racing there or not.
And you never seen the fastest ones, I don't think.
There was a kid from Kansas City, and he's son-in-law to one of our friends that grew up here. And he came from Kansas City, and I can't remember, I think his last name's Thompson. Eric Thompson or something like that. I don't know.
I never knew.
But anyway, he raced lawnmowers, and he raced everywhere I went to, and man, it was awesome. That thing would scream around them corners. I mean,
And when I first started, we could just go out and throw some cones up in the grass, and we'd start racing around those cones. But then there towards the end, the insurance got to where they stepped in, and you had to have a prepared track, and you had to have double fences and everything else. It got tight.
is it still going today?
Yeah, they're still racing down at Lawnmower.
Is some of the boys from Coffeyville still racing?
No, when I
Was
quit
there
it,
a Lehman or something?
yeah, John.
John, there you go.
Yeah, he's racing RC cars now.
Really?
Yeah, he's really big into that. And they've got an indoor track and an outdoor track there at home. In fact, he's the one I bought that CP from.
He had some pretty good mowers.
Yeah.
That's who I work. I think that's who hired me to do that.
John Lowe?
Yeah, but because he lives, we ain't gonna tell it on the camera here. He lives somewhere around his area, his brother's area. I thought, because I went to his house one time and I picked up some equipment to announce with in Coffeyville. I can't remember. And I went down that same road that he lives on. So around in that neighborhood somewhere.
Yeah, John's lived in 2 or 3 different places, but he's there in Coffeyville.
He was a good guy.
Yeah, he's a nice
He was
guy.
a good guy. So.
Hey, he's trying to get me into racing RC cars too. I told him I got enough hobbies now.
Okay, Kim, got a question for you. This is from Adam, your old buddy Adam, up north of you, up the road there a ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, he wants to know, where did the deer slayer come from? Who built it? And where did it go? And he knows that. He just thought that was a good
Yep.
question. Let our viewers know.
Well, originally my cousin went down to Tennessee and bought the frame and the chassis. It was a running machine when I got it, and it pulled, but it wasn't very good. It wanted to do big wheelies and act silly on it. And I bought it from my cousin, and I built the rest of it myself. We cut it down to just, the only thing that was left on it was the rear axle and the rear fenders, and it was just nothing. And we stretched it all out and moved everything to the front to make it pull better. And I come across the skin in a salvage yard, and it was going to crush it. The tractor was nice. I think that's good to let it crush it. So I got the parts from that because I like to pull with the Alabama tractors. And I just went from there. And me and Dwayne Conley in his garage, I got pictures of his parts hanging from the ceiling when we painted it. And then I had to come up with a name, and all them little kids and everybody around there was like running John Deere tractors. And I thought, I'm going to call mine the Deer Slayer, just for the fun of it.
We can call one later the Mule Slayer.
Mule Slayer.
We go about hit the same mule one night. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to Happy Jack's Foods, home of Beyond the Dirt Pulling Podcast. Come and see us, try out our good food. While you're here at Happy Jack's enjoying the food, come on inside and check out the automotive memorabilia we have, and along with my new oil tanker. Come on by and see us.
Hey, Happy Jack, we thank you very much for letting us come in here and do the podcast. You ever get to Columbus, Kansas from on Tuesday to Saturday from 6 to 6? I think they're open here. Got great barbecue, good breakfast in the morning. I mean, it's awesome food, and man, you get plenty of meat on your sandwiches. And also on the 15th of April, we're going to have a tractor show, a pulling tractor show and race cars here. 2 live bands going, so I want to invite everybody over to that. We're going to have some trophies or some kind of awards for you during the day, and but I'll let you know more about that on my Facebook page, Tractor Pulling with Facebook page. So make sure you check that out. We're going back to Kim, finish the deer slayer story.
Yeah, like I say, when we had to come up with a name, so all the kids like the John Deere, so I had to call mine the Deer Slayer to be different. And it pulled good and done good, and all the kids loved it. I let them climb all over because it wasn't no big deal to me. And I was over at Carthage, Missouri, and I wasn't feeling real good that night, so I let the guy that bought it pull it. And he done real good with it. He told me he was going to buy it. I just kind of laughed it off like, yeah, okay, whatever. And he made me an offer. I said, yeah, I'd probably take that for it. And lo and behold, the next day he showed up with cash. So I reckon I had to sell it. That was just a pure OD accidental deal, but that's what happened. Yeah, and he went over to, I think he lives over by Mount Vernon or somewhere. Stock City or
Yeah, just south of Stock City.
South of Stock City. And Brandon bought it.
So do you regret selling it?
All the day I said open my mouth, said I'd sell it to him, I regretted it. I've been regretting it. That's why I was telling Ron on the way over. I kind of wish I hadn't sold it, but I'd move on to something different, I guess. I'm going to build a turbo 4-cylinder, 2300 motor.
I got a question about that too here in a minute. So about another one.
Yep.
Okay, this is for Ron. This is from John. He wants to know how fast you've been on a mower track. John said he races them in Illinois. You might have raced against him. And we only top around 45 mile an hour. Thanks, I pull a 4-wheel drive. I said, thank you. I pull a 4-wheel drive truck for 3 years. Enjoy the podcast. So that's about what you guys talked in, about 45.
Yeah, about 45. That's pretty close. We've never really radared him in anything. I know his cousin Larry, back years back, him and some other guys was up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And they was racing on an 1/8 mile clay bank track, and they was radared them down the straightaways at 75 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
But
I know he took you that on the asphalt down by the house and run it down the road and said chase it with a car with over 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Down on a straight road.
So John, you're running about the same as they did, about 45 mile an hour then. So Kim, this is for you. 417, one of our pullers would pull with.
Yeah.
Not that they do, but because they didn't want to be mentioned.
Yeah.
What was the first car you raced, and what was it?
The first car I raced, well, I used to street race a 61 Chevy pickup that I built. My dad and that company built it. We put 283 in it, and I street raced it. I turned it motor 9100, and I drove that truck for 14 years before I finally blew it up. But I won a lot of races with that thing. But as far as stock car racing, it was a Mustang. I'm a diehard Chevy fan too, don't get me wrong. I raced a Mustang, it had a 2300 motor in it. But I did learn how to make Ford motor run fast. You fill them full of Chevy parts. I put Chevy pistons and Chevy rods and all that stuff in it. I turned that motor 9,000 RPM. The very first race I was in, I'd never sat in a stock car in my entire life. There was 25 cars in it. And Bud Perkins told me, just go out and fight and follow us. If you finish, that's a good night of racing because you didn't turn nothing up. I followed it for the first 5 laps. I was like, well, this kind of stinks. So I stepped in the gas on another second that night. I'd have won it if I'd just been paying attention. Wouldn't lollygag the first 5 laps. But I've been hooked ever since. And I've won a bunch of races.
That made me think of something before we go to the next question. Talking about racing and this dirt car racing, I was thinking the other night when these questions was coming in, my brother-in-law from Colorado, they had what they call it, figure 8 racing.
Yeah.
And train race, that's what it was.
The old trainer, yeah, the cars together,
Yeah,
three cars
and they
together.
had to cross.
Yep.
Well, anyway, he drove, I don't even know what car he had, I seen it, but I don't know what it was. And her sister was in the back car as a brake person.
Yeah.
And they would call us and communicate back and forth on the phone, you know, with her sister and her. And her sister called one night and she said, yeah, I had a wreck. And she got T-boned.
Yeah.
You know, but man, I'd watch videos of that. Man, that was crazy
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, demo derby for 16 years too. I've drag race, stock car race, demo derby, rode four-wheelers, just whatever. Four-wheelers bang me up pretty good too.
Didn't they have a train race at Caney one time?
Not that I can remember, I don't know.
I was thinking somebody was telling me that when I was telling that
They have enduro races, that's my next quest, I'm gonna do one of those. It's just basically take a car and kick the windows out of it and weld the door shut and go race it. So 200 laps, nonstop.
I guess just another question for Kim from another Missouri puller. Rumor has it, Kim Benning's building another pulling tractor. So,
Yep, I went over and bought it from Adam's dad up in Cherryville. And it's a 2300 Ford. Another Ford product, it's got a turbo on it about that big around.
gonna have Chevy parts in it.
I don't know yet, because right now I'm kind of on a budget. I'm building a twin turbo LS truck motor, so I'm spending all my money on that, so gotta go back to plain drag racing, you know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to make like 850 horse, we'll find out. But,
And I did see pictures of it, so.
yeah.
Some of you haven't seen it yet, but
Yep.
me and Bernie seen pictures last weekend of it.
Yep.
Looks like a sweet ride, so.
But, yeah, it's a 2300 Ford. I bought new wheels and tires for it the other day, and I have not even started it. I don't even know if it runs
You're
yet.
gonna have it ready by play day?
I hope so. I haven't even started. It's sitting in my garage, and I did actually load it up and haul it down and weigh it, make sure it's gonna be legal. So it does weigh. So we'll find out, I guess. I'm going to play with old Brian Gwynn, see if I can whoop up
There you
one
go,
head.
Brian, you better look out.
Coming after you.
Coming after you, man. So. All right, Ron, this is for you. From one of our pullers we pull with. Do you like pulling better or racing?
That's a tough one, there.
That's a tough one. If I could still breathe well enough, I'd probably still be racing. But pulling, it's an adrenaline rush there too.
Yeah.
Now, if I'd started out with a stock tractor, it'd probably be a different story.
That's like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But buying the little hot rod that I bought, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I finally sold my last racing mower a couple weeks ago, and so that's all out of my system.
It's on here
now.
too. It's on here too. We're gonna talk about that.
Oh,
too.
okay.
You know, I'll tell you that stock car racing, if I could afford to race, I'd be racing in a second. That's something you just can't get rid of. It's fun.
There's an old kid that lives south of me that dirt car races, and we'll talk about it off camera later, but I think maybe you race with him.
May have, I raced from,
If he goes to Caney and stuff.
I raced from 96 to 06 when I got divorced. I kind of had to get rid of that game.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know what I was going to say. It just kind of went.
I had a good one here sent to us, and it wasn't a question for nobody, but I want to share it because I thought I got a kick out of it. It says, Joel from Wisconsin ran across your Facebook page, so I joined it. Thought I'd send you some knowledge for the podcast. Grandfather told me of all sports, only bullfighting, mountain climbing, and motor racing try a man. All the rest are recreation, games that children play. I like that, Joel. That's a good one. So, matter of fact, I fought a few bulls in my day. So.
Yep. Oh, I have two just out farming.
Just out farming.
Just out
Yeah.
farming.
Okay, 417 number. This is for both of you. When going around a circle fast, what's the technique for driving? And he says, this might be a stupid question, but I know there's technology to it.
Yeah, there's a lot in round and round racing. Nowadays it's coming down to, you put $1,500 for the shocks on your car. The shocks is what makes the car handle and how it transfers the weight and this, that, and the other. But the best way to sum up stock car racing is if you've ever been out playing and sliding around roads on ice, how you can feel the car slide. If you can feel it in your butt and you can keep the car under control, you can race a stock car. But some of them guys, you can strap a rocket on their butt and they'll never be any better. They'll never be no faster because they can't feel it. You can feel it in your feet, you can feel it in your butt, what the car is doing. If you can keep up with the cars, and most of the time you turn the car right to go around the racetrack. When you turn it left, you're turning right to keep the car going straight to the left. And that's about the easiest way I would explain it. It's kind of like playing on gravel roads. You go out and slide around the corner on a gravel road. You got to keep the car under you. If you can feel it, you'll be fast.
What's your thought?
About the same way with lawnmowers, except we have no suspension. We can't lean on special shock setups or anything. It's just solid. And
No throttle control there.
you feel every bump in the track, and you just kind of, when you get up into the turn, you kind of tap the brake a little bit and set it, and then back up, hammer back on the gas, and just drift around the corners. And it's a matter of feel. You just got to be able to feel it, like Kim said. If you, it's fun.
Yeah. I got to tell you one more thing about my race car deal. One of the things, I probably shouldn't brag about it, but it's one of my final points in life. I went down to Arkansas to a big race down there at Run What You Brung. In 25 laps, I lapped their fastest car 5 times.
Really?
Yeah. That much faster my car was. Well, in 96, or excuse me, 98 or 9 it was, my 4-cylinder car was as fast as Al Perkins' late model car, his V8 late model. Because we went out there in hot laps and practice. I went out there with my 4-cylinder, I put a new motor in, and I put the new motor in, I went out and wanted to warm it up and check it. So we went out during hot laps in mid-time. There was 5 late models in my car, and my car was as fast as every one of the late models. And Al Perkins won the MLRA championship that year with his car. My car was as fast as his for a 4-cylinder.
We're gonna, after a bit, before we quit today, we're gonna take a scan. We got a racing program sitting in here now, so we'll show you a few of them cars on this podcast. So, we already answered that. Okay, this is for both of you, and it's from an old puller that we used to pull with, pulled for a while, old Bobby Mitch. He wanted to know what made you go to racing. We probably already talked about this. What made you go to racing and tractor pulling? Was it the expenses, or you just wanted a new challenge? So, we already talked about that, basically.
Pretty much both. Mine was just pure accidental. My cousin, he was wanting to get into it, so I was going to help him out. And like I said, we went to Minnesota to get his tractor, the first one he bought. And we was all loading all his stuff up. And I told the guy that I wouldn't mind trying it, but I want a motorcycle puller. He goes, I got one of those too for sale, real cheap. We walked down to another garage around the corner, there it was, and I had to buy it. So then we had to figure out how to get all that stuff home. That was a 24-hour road trip. We spent 24 hours driving up there and straight back. And we left at 2:30 in the morning, we got home at 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
We had the truck and the trailer, and we had stuff stacked on that thing like crazy.
Well, I had to quit racing for health reasons.
Yeah.
And I got into pulling because I just like motorsports, and it looked like fun, and I watched a lot of it on TV, and I always liked the little mini tractors. The big tractors, of course, way out of my price range, but and I spent a lot more on this one than I intended to, but yeah, I just like competing. I'm pretty competitive.
Yeah. My next question is I want a 4-cylinder and a V8. That's my next one. I want to find if I can find a good used chassis somewhere, I'd be interested.
So is racing or is tractor pulling more expensive, or is it to you guys, or racing more?
Tractor puller doesn't even hold a candle to start car.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Well, the lawnmowers, that sport can be fairly inexpensive, or it can be quite expensive.
Yes, very.
It depends on how. It's like the old saying goes, how fast you can go, but depending on how much you want to spend.
That's right.
And, I've got more in my tractor than I had in my race mowers.
Yeah, that's like that 1/4 the one I told you would run so good. If you was to buy that motor today, it would probably cost you $15,000-$20,000. But I'm a tool and die machinist too, and I worked in a machine shop, and they let me run all the machines, so I wouldn't have anything there, just my time
Yeah.
to build it. Because I cut all the counterweights off the crank, I built my own flywheel, put titanium valves in it, it had all kinds of good stuff in it.
Ron, Donnie Simpson sent me a message and he said, you had a wheel horse, that was a sweet ride.
Yeah. That was the last one I had.
That's what I was gonna ask you too, that kind of made me got to thinking. So,
And he's the one who bought it.
was your lawnmowers belt driven?
No. Well,
Yes and no.
yes and no. My first stock one, it was belt driven. It come from the engine back to the jack shaft and then back to the transaxle. And my second one, let's see, it went from the engine to transmission, and then from the transmission it had chained back to the axle.
Like a go-kart axle.
It's just a straight axle into the back. Of course, we run they was locked up. And even on our transaxles, we went inside and we locked them up. Then the last one, I had a centrifugal clutch on it.
It was all chain drive.
It was just chained back to the jack shaft, back to the axle, and it had the clutch alone was $500.
Wow. There wasn't nothing you go down to Napa and buy.
No.
Talking about how fast it was, my little orange deer slayer tractor, I live on asphalt roads, so I didn't want to tear my tires up. My boy was bragging about how fast his El Camino was, it's got a little bit of 3 in it.
Uh-huh.
So I put my deer slayer out on the asphalt, and from about 10 mile an hour, it would run 80 mile an hour in way less than an eighth of a mile. And it didn't have a brake one on it.
Okay, Don Simpson, not Donnie. So you had the wheel horse, and I want to ask you this: he bought one from you, right?
Yes, he bought
Is
that.
he going to race it?
No.
Oh, come on, Don, you can race. I'll come video it, Don. So,
He said he'd never race it, but he's going to have fun with it in his yard.
Don, you got to race it. Let me know when it.
Good clearing over with, you have fun down here.
We'll all show up and we'll be your fan club, and
Clear
I'll bring the video camera, Don. So.
Yeah.
Talked about announcing days back in then. We talked about the wrecks on the lawnmowers. You seem pretty good, probably some other wrecks other than yourself, didn't you?
Couple, yeah.
Yeah.
We was up in, I was in Ohio was at a finals in Ohio one year. And one of the girls racing in the class that I finished in, she had a wreck and she broke her collarbone. And she didn't get to finish that weekend. Most of the time, they were pretty safe. I met Kenny Schrader one time. He was in Coffeyville at a car show, and we had our mowers down there, and I had that CP down there, and I asked him if he wanted to get on it, drive around a little bit, and he said, "Oh no, I ain't got no roll cage on it. You guys are crazy."
And you didn't have a roll cage?
No roll
when
cage.
you wrecked and stuff?
No, it was just lawnmower.
You're just sitting on it.
You're just sitting on it.
I remember they sat real low at the ground.
Yeah, we lowered them down. You can't.
Well, James Jones got a pile of time with you.
Yeah. We've all been over and on top of us a few times.
Oh yeah. I seen what's his name? I can't remember that guy's name, but man, he hit that rodeo arena fence and bounced off of it like that stretch woven wire.
Yeah.
I mean, it slung him like a slingshot.
I went into turn 3 and right in the middle of turn 3 and turn 4, up in Levo, Kansas, and my steering broke. Nothing.
Oh, man.
Straight into the fence. It's got a new steering system on it now.
Good. Hey, did you ever have any wrecks?
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I slammed the wall at Caney one time. My uncle, I was passing on the outside. He lost control and bumped me in the back, and my car turned 90 and just turned and slammed the wall, the front straightaway, head on basically, at about 70 mile an hour. It hit so hard it took the frame rails and locked it over in front of under the fan blades, and took an 8-inch off wheel, the lug nuts, from the lug nuts to out of the wheel was like 5 inches. The lug nuts took out further than the wheel did after it slammed it. And it banged that car up pretty good. I never rolled it, I never flipped a car, but I got real close a couple times, but sure tore a bunch of them up.
People's gonna think I'm an idiot on here asking this question, but I don't know much about the racing car world, but like, when you're watching it or something, and you got like two guys on the same team or the same sponsors or whatever, do they really slingshot each other?
In the dirt, you don't notice it so much, but as far as like on asphalt racing, when you get to speed, oh yeah, you can draft and definitely get around, or push one another, and they do that.
You know, I've seen a lot, you know, like commentators go back about so-and-so push so-and-so.
Yeah, and I've had people like that, yeah. So, because like there's times that whenever you be racing side by side for the last 3 or 4 laps,
Mhm.
and if you're behind one of your buddies and he's struggling to get over, yeah, you'll come up and ram him and give him just a little extra nudge to help him out sometimes. Which that is all fair and square legal, because you're still trying to pass him. I didn't try to wreck him, I just helped him out.
So when you're doing that, what's the speed you're running?
Oh, shoot. It depends on where you're at. You don't never touch anybody in the corner, but when you're coming, you know, like just before you get into the corner, you'll be running 65, 70 mile an hour.
Wow. Wow.
And the funny part about that, when you're around racing, everybody says, hey, you go that fast, to that close. It's just like driving to Tulsa. Once you go that fast, you don't notice it. It's just like driving up and down the regular city street. Just everyday driving then. And you know the people you're around, you know how they're going to drive and what they're going to do, so you can run 4 or 5 inches apart all the way around it all the time.
Are we good, camera lady? My other questions, some of my other questions here that came in, I don't know who they're from, but tire size on racing motors. What was the tire size?
Well, they had to be the same size on the front and same size on the back. They could be different front and rear, but they had to be the same. And on stock mowers, we just run the regular stock lawnmower tires. On my FX, when I was racing it, I was running Hoosiers on it, and I ran just 6 inches on the front, 6 on the back, and some of them run the 8-inch on the back.
And they're slick, right?
The Hoosiers
These
were.
go-kart tires,
Yeah. Now you had to run the same brand of tires also. If you had turf tire, the treads had to match on both sides. But that didn't really, we didn't have a lot of attention to that. But everybody ran, it wasn't a big issue. We just, most of the mowers had the same size tire front and rear until you got up into factory experimental class, and then we get bigger tires on the back. And some of the guys run bigger tires. Some of them just stayed with the smaller ones.
I seen on like YouTube watching. Some of them run on asphalt sometimes, don't they?
We never did.
I've seen some.
Well,
on here
now I take
on
that back.
asphalt.
We run on concrete.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Concrete,
Slick
not
concrete.
asphalt.
We went to a monster truck show down at the Navy Center, and it was a fill-in thing, but running on that slick concrete, it was like going out there on an icy road. And I slammed the wall down there one night. Then we raced a couple of times at the Darryl Starker car show. But they put Coke syrup on the floor there. So yeah, a bite. I come out of one turn.
You said Coke syrup?
Coke syrup.
Makes the floor risk. That's like what they use on no prep, pretty much.
Well,
Makes the floor tap.
Oh,
And I come out that one turn, hammered the throttle one time, the front end come up on me. And, whoa, this is different.
I'll be darned. Wow. I didn't know, I learned something.
Yeah, you just pull your shoes off.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna take our last break and we'll be back and close out, so.
Many excavators, they hit the whole factory with slot those set around, they don't see them up. One of them was a dog. They never been even.
Okay, we're back. Thanks again to Happy Jacks here in Columbus, Kansas. Don't forget April the 15th. Get a hold of me or something. Text me on Facebook or text me on my number or get a hold of me on Facebook. And like I say, I'll have more information when we get closer to there. There'll be 2 live bands playing that day. Lots to do that day. So we're going to get back to ask Ron here. What motor size was on the race mowers? Horsepower wise or blocks?
Well, on my first mower, just a 12 horse shot lawnmower engine, Briggs. And on the second one I had, it was a Briggs opposed twin.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lewin had that engine specially built. He even contacted Iskandarian to have a cam built to his specifications for that engine. And I'm not sure what all he had in that engine, but he special built it himself. And it was just like an 18 horse opposed to start with, but it was putting out about 40 horse when he got through with it. And then on the last one I had, it was a GX390 Honda motor, like you can get on a generator or an air compressor or something. And I think it started out like about 18 horse. And I had it rebuilt up in Kansas City, and the guy told me that it was putting out about 50 horse when he got through with it.
The exhaust on them, I just thought of this when I was announcing them. Some of them sounded a lot, they sounded like, if I remember right, some of them sounded kind of like what they call the crotch rocket or something, you know, they had that, you know, man, some of them was loud, you know, some of them was different.
Yeah.
But did the exhaust go up on them, or did it come straight back?
No, it has to go out to the side.
Okay.
And now on my FX, it went straight down, right underneath the mower. And I had to be careful if I was in a grassy area because it would ignite the grass.
Really?
So, but yeah, because they had to be pointed in a direction to where, like out and down, in case you cut the valve or something and it threw something out through the exhaust, it wouldn't hit somebody beside you.
Well, I think we pretty well covered everything about lawnmower racing and how these guys got into tractor pulling and all that. So our next guest next weekend, I have no idea. I've had a couple guys said maybe, and some things that's come up where they couldn't make it, but we'll probably try to have an antique puller on next weekend for our viewers. I know you guys always send me a message when we're going to get an antique puller. Well, we're probably going to have one next weekend. So I had one more thing. It said another message here I didn't throw in here. It said, good to meet you at Lebanon last weekend. Some guy met me and Bernie for the first time and enjoyed talking to us. Says keep up the videos and I love the podcast and I really appreciate you guys watching that. I appreciate you subscribing to my channel, Tractor Pulling with GZ, and you might check out the boys up north, Remy's Recording. He's got a pretty good little channel, so make sure you check that out. So we're going to get out of here and we'll show you some shots of the race car program that's in here now, and we'll see some of you again next weekend, and keep it between the lines.
the tractor and sleeve it, and then bore down it, sleeve it, bore down it, sleeve it. I took a 2300 motor and turned it into a 3150 cc motor for one of my rounders. And for the head, for the top, hold the top of it down, I bought a piece of cast iron about that thick. You know, bored it all out, made it look like a head gasket, bolted it to the top of the motor for the extra stroke and hold the cylinders in, and then put the head back on top of that.
Ron, where you work at?
I work at Spears Manufacturing on Katy.
Oh, yeah.
I work in the machine shop over there. Yeah, we gotta go.
Come over there. Look, paper across the road.
Gotta build up.